this day, February the 22nd, 78 years ago, the German student and anti-Nazi activist Sophie Scholl was executed along with two colleagues by guillotine. Born on the 9th of May 1921, she was only 21 years old when she was executed for distributing anti-war and anti-Nazi leaflets. In 1932, Scholl started attending a secondary school for girls, and at the age of 12, like most of her contemporaries, she chose to join the Bund Deutscher Mädel, or League of German Girls, which was the female version of the Hitler Youth. To begin with, she was enthusiastic about Hitler's rise to power and his promise of a new Germany, a Germany to be proud of. Her initial enthusiasm soon gave way to criticism. She was aware of the dissenting political views of her father, friends, and some teachers. They eventually adopted a strategy of passive resistance towards the Nazis by writing and publishing leaflets that called for the toppling of National Socialism. They called themselves the White Rose. In the summer of 1942, 4 leaflets were written and distributed throughout the school and central Germany. Whilst she was a member of the Bund Deutscher Mädel, Scholl met Fritz Hartnagel on a camping trip. They became close friends, and when he joined the German army, they wrote to each other on a regular basis. Sophie found him decent and attractive, and sensitive and intelligent. Sophie was horrified by Hartnagel's reports of German war crimes on the Eastern Front, where Hartnagel witnessed Soviet prisoners of war being shot over a mass grave and learned of the mass killings of Jews. Her correspondence with Hartnagel deeply discussed the theology of conscience developed in Newman's writings. This is seen as her primary defense in the transcribed interrogations leading to her trial and execution. Those transcripts became the basis for the 2005 film Sophie Scholl, The Final Days, a clip of which can be seen in this video. She and the rest of the White Rose were arrested for distributing the 6th leaflet at the University of Munich on the 18th of February 1943. The Scholls had brought a suitcase full of leaflets to the university main building. They hurriedly dropped stacks of copies in the empty corridors for students to find when they left the lecture rooms. Leaving before the lectures had ended, the Scholls noticed that there were some leftover copies in the suitcase and decided to distribute them. Sophie flung the last remaining leaflets from the top floor down into the atrium. This spontaneous action was observed by the university caretaker, Jakob Schmidt, a devout Nazi. Schmidt informed the Gestapo. Hans and Sophie Scholl were taken into Gestapo custody. A draft of the 7th leaflet written by Christoph Probst was found in the possession of Hans Scholl at the time of his arrest by the Gestapo. While Sophie disposed of incriminating evidence before being taken into custody, Hans tried to destroy the draft of the last leaflet by tearing it apart and trying to swallow it. The Gestapo recovered enough of it and were able to match the handwriting with other writings from Probst, which they found when they searched Hans' apartment. The main Gestapo interrogator was Robert Moore, who initially thought Sophie was innocent. However, after Hans had confessed, Sophie assumed full responsibility in an attempt to protect the other members of White Rose.
Fräulein Scholl?
The court proceedings were presided over by the infamous judge Roland Freisler. The previous year, Freisler had been one of the 15 attendees at the Wannsee conference. This was a 90-minute meeting presided over by Reinhard Heydrich, where the fate of Europe's Jews were decided. Freisler would go on to preside over the sham trials of the conspirators who tried to assassinate Hitler in the 1944 July bomb plot. He can be seen here bullying and humiliating one of the defendants.
Ja oder nein? Verbrechen Sie da unten?
Herr Präsident,
Ja oder nein auf eine klare Antwort. Nein, Sie können auch nicht mehr verbrechen. Denn Sie sind ja nur noch ein Häufchen Elend.
Unfortunately, Freisler escaped justice himself when he was killed in a US bombing raid in 1945. Before Freisler, in the People's Court, Sophie was recorded as saying these words: "Somebody, after all, had to make a start. What we wrote and said is also believed by many others. They just don't dare express themselves as we did." No testimony was allowed for the defendants. This was their only defense. On the 22nd of February 1943, Scholl, her brother Hans, and their friend Christoph Probst were found guilty of treason and condemned to death.
Sophia Magdalena Scholl.
They were all beheaded by guillotine by executioner Johann Reichhardt in Munich Stadelheim prison only a few hours later at 1700 hours. The execution was supervised by Walter Römer, the enforcement chief of the Munich District Court. Prison officials, in later describing the scene, emphasized the courage with which she walked to her execution. Her last words were, "Such a fine sunny day and I have to go. What does my death matter if through us thousands of people are awakened and stirred into action?"